Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Black Expat Experience, a podcast highlighting the lived experiences of Black expats around the world. I'm Kendall Tyson, your host, licensed psychotherapist supervisor, and a fellow Black expat living in Beijing. I know I say this every episode, and it always rings true. We have another great episode and guest in store for you today. And I would like to welcome a wonderful, wonderful lady to the show, Chineme. Hi, how are you?
I'm really well. Thank you so much for having me on this show.
You are so
And
welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited that we were able to make this happen. Just for some context, everyone, Chineme and I met at the International School Counselors Conference. Wait, Bangkok.
It was in Bangkok. We were in Bangkok, Thailand.
In Bangkok last year. And this is after at least me in China, not being able to travel.
It was this year.
Anywhere.
It was this year.
23? It was 23, right?
I think it was this year. Oh my God, what is happening?
Yes?
I think it was...
Why does it feel like it's been longer than
that? Let me check my calendar.
No, I think you're right. I think it was March.
Yeah, March. It was this year. Listen, this is how the year just goes by. And we're like, what? It's already been, it's this year.
Oh my God. And it's already November. Goodness gracious.
A lot has happened. Goes to show you're doing great work.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, as are you too, Shay. So I love to allow guests or give guests a space to kind of introduce themselves to the audience, to the community, your elevator pitch. Please share with us an introduction into who you are.
Thank you so much. Again, thanks so much for having me on the show. I love how you've been able to build this platform and allow people to share their stories. I think it's so powerful. And yes, we met this year, and I love that about I love what you were doing. And I just want to encourage you to keep on doing this. This is so important to share stories and learn from each other. So yes, my name is Chineme Ugbor. I am Austrian-Nigerian, and I love art. I love traveling. I love savoring foods. I'm also the co-founder of two companies. One is called Linden Global Learning Support Services, and it's based in Berlin, and it's a learning support agency that matches struggling learners with educators and therapists around the world. Sorry about that noise. We started in 2015, as three co-founders, and now we have a fabulous and incredible team of 87 specialists around the world right now. And we work with over 100 international schools in about 47 different countries. So we provide speech therapy, occupational therapy, learning support, all sorts of learning support, counseling. We also do psychoeducational assessments as well. And the other organization is a nonprofit, and it's called Girls Gearing Up International Leadership Academy. You can Google it. It's one of my passion projects. We also started it just around the same time 8 years ago, and it's really dedicated to empowering young female leaders. Our mission revolves around fostering confidence and leadership skills and social impact through skill building programs. We get girls from between the ages of 13 and 17, and we fly them in from around the world. And from the past 8 years, we've brought together girls from, Ghana and Chile, Morocco, USA, Syria. And it's powerful. It's powerful when you see these young girls come together and share their experiences and the challenges in their home countries, and also their ideas for making a change in their communities. So that's the second organization that I have. And I'm based in Berlin, and loving it here.
I love that. Thank you so much for offering that. Like, I knew about Linden. I follow the nonprofit for the
good.
Tell me what it's called again. Girls
Gearing Up International Leadership Academy.
I've seen some of the things that you all have done, and
nice.
It's so exciting. I think you all had this session this summer, and I was watching some of the things that were happening or whatever you were sharing online, and I'm just like, that's it. Like, that is how the ripple effect happens. That's how the seeds are planted. That's how the change continues.
That's it.
I'm curious. So we're getting right into it. I'm curious about what was the spark? What was the spark to start Linden Global Learning? what was the spark to, begin the young women focused nonprofit? Where did it come from?
Frustration. That's always the beginning. So with Linden, I had worked with my now business partner. We both worked at the same international school. And we just felt like many people who work at schools, you just never had enough time in the day to serve your students. I was working, she was the head of the student support services department, and I was working in the counseling department as counselor. And you just felt you never had enough time. You never had enough hours in the day to support your students. And if a student came with, say accommodations or needs, I just didn't even have the team to support the students. And so we thought, what would it look like to actually have a referral source, a group of trusted professionals that we could call at any time and say, hey, you know what, do you have a speech therapist for this kid? Do you have an occupational therapist? Do you have a counselor? Do you have a math coach for this kid in my classroom or in my school? And not only that, having a diverse group of people, right? As you know, international schools, while the students might be quite from all over the world, it might be a little bit different for the staff. The staff might not represent the student body, and not always. And so to really we decided to create, an agency. I always like to say a magical village of adults that are really passionate about serving kids. We decided to create this agency of diverse learning support specialists and therapists from around the world. So that was Linden, and that's how it's grown ever since. And with Girls Gearing Up, I think, if you speak to my co-founders, they'll have different ways of saying what the trigger was. But I think for all of us, we all agree that we just felt that we needed to see more female leadership. We all know what the problems are. We all know, in the sense that we know that, there just is a lack of female representation in many spheres, in many areas, in leadership positions. And so one of the simple ways, not simple, but one of the ways that we thought we could do that is then, why don't we then start to equip girls? Why don't we expose them to different career paths? How about we connect them with other role models in different fields? I remember one of my favorite memories with one of our girls, that one of our cohorts was going into a Rolls-Royce test bed. I don't know if it's okay that I actually say this, but yeah, anyways, we had but even if it wasn't Rolls-Royce, even if it was another company, I'm sure it's the same, but this was a very traditionally very male, it's an engineering space, and it was mostly men that were in that space, and so we were invited to come and see their test beds and sort of look around and do a tour. And so we had actually planned to speak with the female engineers at Rolls-Royce. So they had a room that they reserved for us, and we're going to speak to them. Anyway, so we arrived there, and we had this, this complete, this group of 30-something girls from around the world, from all around the world. And they're 13 to 17, and they're coming in, all talking and chatting. As soon as we entered into that space, there was just this silence. You could feel that they felt, okay, do we belong in this space, right? And all of a sudden, we had the group of female engineers walk up to the girls and say, welcome. And they just, it was almost like making a way for the girls in that space to say, yes, you belong here, and we are here too. And, and you can see yourself in these spaces. And so when we sat down and, there was a Q&A session and the girls would interview the women, it was just powerful, So I think for me, that's part of the reason why we started Girls Gearing Up, is to really create those moments and really expose girls to what it means to be a leader in these spaces, what it means to take up space in these spaces, that you might not necessarily have seen yourself in, prior to coming to the academy.
I love that. Thank you. Well, I love lots of things, especially in the vein that you're discussing. And I can just envision in my mind as like a part of the work that I do, because I struggle with this myself, is imposter syndrome. And just listening to you describe how the young ladies, the young girls have such an invigoration for being there. Look at all the things, all the shiny things. Look at, the environment that we get to immerse ourselves in. And then it's just it becomes really overwhelming when that spark of, oh my goodness, this is a lot. Am I meant to be in this space? What if this and what if that? But then I feel by what you're listening, by what you're sharing and what you described, that there's like a blossoming when you see the women walk
Absolutely.
in, and it's just this, yes, it is like a validation.
It's a validation.
Take
Yeah.
up space. You belong here just as much as the
Yeah.
next person, probably
Yeah.
more, being honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can see yourself here. Yes, maybe you're seeing mostly, most men in this space, but just being able to see another woman, just being able to see another person of color in that space, it does something to you. And so that's why I love what you're doing as well, with this platform that you've built, because we're seeing people of color, we're seeing Black people thriving. I love your t-shirt, your sweater, by the way, thriving in different spaces that maybe we haven't seen ourselves in. So I think the message is the same. You have to see it to know, and we have also a responsibility to create those spaces for the next generation.
Exactly. Like my mother always says, right? It's not for you to hoard the opportunity. If you've been given the opportunity, it is our responsibility to
Yes.
back, to open doors,
Yes.
to do what we can,
Yes.
and to put people in front of folks, and so that we can, solidify in our community again. Like one of the taglines for, the work I'm doing is thriving abundantly everywhere. And we know the importance of like representation matters, like you just said. And I think I was even surprised after I started delving into this work and meeting people that, oh, it's a whole community over there. We'll just speak on Portugal first, right? Let's just go ahead and go there. So I've always wanted to live in Barcelona. I was going to study abroad there. Things happened. And then I don't know how
Why
Portugal.
Barcelona though? Why
I don't.
Barcelona?
So my business school when I was an undergrad had a study abroad program that I was
Okay.
going to attend, but finances got in the way, which
Okay.
is a whole nother level of this conversation of access and exposure, like the financial commitment that a lot of people, I'll just speak from back home in the States, don't have the access or opportunity to
Access to,
engage
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so that didn't work out. But then I don't know how Portugal just came into the space, filled the space. But I put out, when I started thinking about the idea, I put out, does anyone know anybody in Portugal? And then a person that I went to university with, she was like, oh, I'm gonna connect you to boom, 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 boom. All three of them were on season 1 of the podcast. And it's kind of like, you start thinking about a new car and you just see it everywhere.
Absolutely.
It is literally everything in my consciousness was just like Portugal, stuff popping up online. Oh, interview this person, and there's this person, and now there's these whole communities that I was just like, where did all of y'all come from? Okay.
I love it. I love it.
But it's a place that I would like to live once I leave Beijing. And I know that you have an outstanding connection. If you would like to share, like, what is it that you find about venturing into these different spaces and countries that brings about so much like healing and community?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I have to break down that question.
That's fine.
What do I feel? Are you talking specifically about Portugal now? Or are you talking about like in general, the places I've lived in?
I would say in general, but you can be specific about Portugal if you choose.
Okay. Well, honestly, Portugal for me is just special. And I am excited that you are considering Portugal. This is exciting. Well done.
I love it.
And in terms of, sorry, what? What did you say?
I'm hoping for my story, like, okay.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And so in terms of the factors that maybe I guess you could say in choosing the country to live in or where I live in, I think for me, so I've lived in different places, I've studied different places. I studied in, like I said, Austrian Nigerian, I lived in Austria. I probably should give a bit of a background story, but maybe I shouldn't. Sorry. Anyway, you can cut this part out. I have, grew up in Nigeria, left when I was 10. My family migrated to Austria, to Vienna. And so they've been living there ever since. And but I also studied in the US and South Africa, and also lived in the UK. I worked in Tanzania, so in many countries. And now that I've settled in Berlin, I've been here now for the last 12 years.
Wow.
And it was the first time I would say that my wings were clipped. I remember telling a friend that I spent about 9 consecutive years celebrating 9 birthdays for 9 consecutive years with 9 different cities, with 9 different groups of friends, So for me to be here for 12 years says a lot about the city. I mean, there's good and bad, but I feel when I look back at all the places I've lived in, I always go for the sense of freedom. Where can I express myself? Where can I walk out and not feel like I'm being stared at if my hair is in an afro or in braids, or I have a head wrap, or like, where can I really feel that my body feels safe, that it feels like it's being, because people will stare in many countries, people will
Everywhere.
look, but there's a stare and there's a stare,
Exactly.
there's a look and there's a look. And I mean, I would prefer to have none of that, but it's the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
But there are certain places where you physically just don't feel safe, or you physically feel that you're not welcome there, So I think for me, that freedom and feeling welcome means feeling free. I'm free to move around. I'm free to be. Yeah. So I think ultimately it's about the sense of freedom to express myself. And then I would say the next thing is also the practical things I look for, which is good healthcare. The older we get, this is important. Good healthcare, get your pension fund, I think that's really important, as well. And I think also the standard of living, I live in the UK, and as much as it has amazing things about the UK, can be quite expensive to live. And I always say that I want to live in a place where I go to work so that I can, live. I'm not living so that I can work, so just going from hand to mouth and paying bills and trying to figure things out, because things are so expensive. So I think Berlin had that balance for me. It doesn't demand so much of you, but at the same time, it enables you to like start a business, for example, and yeah, I mean, you can go for a nice dinner for little or for a lot. You have that choice. There's that range. So I think for me, that's that comfort and that standard of living is very important. But the freedom comes first, the freedom to be and to move.
Yes. So you just gave me the title to this episode. And it's centered around freedom. And when I hear you expound upon like that freedom, one, to be, right, to exist peaceably, to really be able to dig your roots in and feel connected and rooted and safe,
exactly,
secure in a space. And we know, I think we both know, and so many other people know, that when you have, it's, what is it, that you have the Maslow's before you bloom.
exactly.
When you have those foundational elements of that safety and that security, then
important.
It's such a foundation to be able to really just thrive.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear as you're describing being in Berlin. I've never been to Berlin. It's actually been one of the places that I've wanted to visit.
You're always welcome. You have a place to stay.
Hey, y'all heard it. I'm gonna take you up on it.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Plus, I think you're an amazing person anyway, and I'd love to be able to spend time with you.
Absolutely, I would love that.
I'm excited, like, just to hear how you've lived in so many different places, been able to experience yourself in so many different settings. And I think, as I think about that, I'm wondering, what do you notice, like, the transitions of your life have looked like to get you to this point? Especially, I like the sentence that I just said, experiencing yourself in so many different settings. How do you believe you've evolved from, leaving Nigeria to where you are now?
Oh, how have I evolved from living? Oh gosh, this is a really big one. So just for some context, I think I don't want to diminish the challenge of moving, especially at that young age. I mean, obviously, I did move when I was older, so there wasn't much choice. It was we are leaving and we're migrating, and so you leave. You have to leave your friends behind. So that was exciting, but at the same time also challenging because you move from living in a tropical warm country, now all of a sudden you're in a cold country, right? I remember my first year I wore multiple layers of tights underneath my jeans. I could not understand how people were moving around talking
Like, y'all choose this?
standing in the cold. I just thought, what is going on? I could not understand it. Anyway, so, that also physical, that moving from warm to cold and having to adjust, moving from a place where I spoke, we spoke Igbo and English, everywhere. And I understood the signs everywhere, to moving to a place where it's German and this street signs are all in German and I have to interact in German and I don't know what's going on half the time, moving for a school system that was, I would say, a little bit more formal and strict, and then moving to one that is more relaxed where people are asking my opinions and I'm thinking, really, what? You want to know what I think about this topic? Moving from having no accents because everybody had a similar accent, and now moving to a place where now I have an accent all of a sudden. Moving from the busy streets of Lagos to now the quiet streets of Vienna, from being the majority to now being a minority. And of course, seeing that I never thought of myself as Black because I was the majority. I had Black pilots and, nurses and doctors, and all of a sudden everybody is not. Nobody is the person of color that I can see that it's Black in Austria. And then also then saying, well, I'm no longer Igbo or Nigerian, I'm African, or I'm a Black girl, right? So all of these changes, I think, have been part of the journey, of being able to, to, number one, I guess, I have a sensitivity now, I think, when people transition to another country or to another community. And it's just enabled me, I guess, to be a bit more easy on myself when I move to another country or when I'm trying to adapt in another country, but also very quickly find community. I think that's very important for me, very important for mental health as well. Really find community, really find, spaces where I can really feel at home quickly, where I can feel there's some little things about what I consider home, whether it's certain foods or whether it's, maybe a church community. It was just something where I can feel a bit of a connection to a place. I think that has helped me become more resilient as I transition, or like in terms of, because of that experience, it's helped me become more, I would say, more resilient and adaptable and flexible. But also, that's, I think, going back to what I said about where do I feel free? I feel like if I'm going to make this, now that I'm an adult and, I have the choice now to move, then I want to make a decision because I know what it took to actually move to another space. I want to now be in control of, like I want to know that the place that I'm going to park my heels and place myself has I can at least feel a certain level of freedom. In that space, if that makes sense. I know it's a very long-winded answer, but it was a very big question. I'm trying to figure out if I answered the question.
I have a problem with
ask it again if I didn't.
I have a problem with asking these really loaded questions, especially if I'm tuning into like the energy that's happening, but it always elicits such evolved and rich responses. Because what I heard you describe probably is similar to, or maybe even be some of the impetus to the work that you're doing with the young girls, is like knowing, how do I, because you have this lived experience of having to transition from being the majority and not really having to have your existence questioned because you fit.
It's everybody, all that,
right? You're not different, right? You're special, but not different. And then
absolutely
making that transition to be somewhere else, and now everything is like a pinpoint or a side note, or I'll speak as an American, a hyphenate, right? Like not necessarily, you might be in the space, but not from or of the space. So that it's,
Yeah.
how do I create that for myself in these
Yeah.
places? And then I hear, as you're
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
if I get to
Yeah.
make that decision, I want to feel the freest possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I greatly
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's literally something that, like I said earlier, that I'm grappling with right now. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like loving what you do, loving the work, loving the
Yeah.
transformation that you get to
Yeah.
see kids and other people
Yeah.
be part, help them make, but then also recognizing it doesn't feel like enough, or it feels
Right.
like there's time for more. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you how do you respond to that? I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but how do you respond to this, or what would you suggest to respond to this? You know how you have like a numbing feeling that can tell you, or like just this consistent, like if I have a knee injury and I've had arthritis for the longest. So like when it rains, I'm gonna make the connection, trust me. So when it
Yeah.
rains, I have like this numbing sensation that just doesn't go away in my left knee until I do something about it. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's this just underlying numbing feeling that just won't go away, of like it's time, you got to make a move. But then you put it in the back of your mind like, no, I have all
Yeah.
these plans, I gotta stay, it's secure. I'm literally speaking to myself,
Yeah.
it's security, people don't want me to leave. How do you
Yeah.
respond to that, where there is such a push and pull? It feels like very stuck in the middle. Like what would you say to someone, me or
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
in that
Yes.
space?
Yes. So I think maybe I can go back to when I was in Austria before I moved to Berlin. I did have that feeling. I was there
Mhm.
for 3 years. I sort of started a company, not a company, sorry, but I sort of was working freelance in Austria. And I just felt, nah, this is not, I mean, I love that my family's here and it's great, but it just also didn't feel like it was the space for me. And I could have continued staying there, but there was this feeling I need to move, I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And that's how I landed in Berlin. But even being in Berlin, I'm and feeling, I guess, because of my business is here, so I'm quite anchored here right now in this moment in time. I still never feel as though all my stakes are in the ground, that this is it.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is when you've moved out of your country or home country for a significant amount of time, you get to see, there might just be that voice that will always be there to say, you know what, um no, there's somewhere else that you can go to, and that you need, maybe this season is over and you need to expand, and maybe it served this purpose and you need to go, and you never really find out until you make that decision. But I think a lot of it is also accepting that, for me anyway, I can speak for myself,
Right.
accepting that home is no longer a physical space. It's never really been that for so long for me.
Yeah.
So even as much as I'm here in Berlin for 12 years, and I don't say this in a sad way, it's just I've never said it's my physical home right now, but it is not home.
Yeah.
And so I've accepted that. And the same thing even with Austria, even if my family has lived for 30 something years, doesn't feel necessarily like this is now, yes, this is my home. And I know there's all the language barriers, which also prevents us sometimes from fully feeling like this is the place.
Yeah.
But also there's globalization. We're so aware of all the different things happening in different countries, and the opportunities that are in front of us are more now than in our parents' generation. And we're privileged to even think this way, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, but I have accepted that, you know, I would have seasons, and um and I think just accepting that, in my pursuit of home, I'm actually looking for a community or people that feel like home, not necessarily a specific place. So if I was to move now to another country, every time my partner and I travel, we were just in Nicaragua and we absolutely loved it. I always like, God, can we actually see a home here? We I think that there's always that part in me that thinks, okay, you know what? I don't know what the next phase would be. I don't know what the next place would be, but I know this is not home, and that's okay. That's
Mhm.
okay. On the other hand, not on the other hand, in addition to that, there's also, of course, the practical things, like when it comes to finances and work and pension and all that, you have to think about all of that very practically. So I think that that all comes part and parcel as well, that we think about
it's such an
all of
adult
those
decision.
Like, yeah.
Like it's such an adult decision.
It is.
With all the friends and family, everywhere in the world. And some people thinking like, oh, you just go whenever you want to do. I'm like, part of that's true, right? Because one thing I've recognized about myself, and like a through line that I've noticed in a lot of people that I interview and talk to that have chosen this life, is that need for freedom and space. Like to expand in a way that doesn't feel restrictive, in a way that they can be creative and lean into all the parts of themselves that maybe they weren't able to express in their home country of origin. But I like what you said, that home isn't a place. And when I go home, my parents don't get that. Well, you always be from here. So I was born here, y'all are here, there's a connection here, but
exactly.
Ever since gifting myself the option of living in the world, honestly, being in the world feels so much more like me than
there's sort of in
like, that is so weird, because it can be really scary. And then wanting to go to Portugal and find what does root growing look like there, community building look like there. I'm excited about it all. And I don't know, it's just a level of gratitude for being brave enough to make the decision. I love that. And I know we have just a few more questions, because I want to honor what you shared. If we're thinking like mental health, everything that we've discussed, even though it hasn't been on the nose, mental health has been a mental health conversation. And I'm curious about, what do you recognize like in this moment in time in your life are like must-haves and ways that you prioritize like your holistic wellness, mental health especially?
Ways I prioritize my mental health. So I think, I think mental health for me really is a holistic thing. And, I think really caring for the body, for the soul, for the spirit. I think that, it's what we eat, it's physical health as well. It's the ability to give and receive as well. So for me, the way I prioritize it, and I think a lot of it is what I've learned from my mom specifically. I have many stories about her, but is, the little things. It's really, I love being able to go, it's going to sound weird, but I love going to the grocery store and taking my time and buying things. I told my team the other day and they all thought, what?
In the morning when ain't nobody there.
I love it. I just love going and thinking, what am I going to make for myself today? What am I going to make for myself this week? I love buying flowers for myself. I love, doing my stretching. Yes. I love painting. I paint, and I think making time for that. And I don't, and I think forgiving myself for things that I maybe have not done right or said right, and really making that a practice, that I also just forgive myself so that I can breathe easy and live easy, and surrounding myself with people that are really give me that energy as well, and vice versa, people who are like just uplifting. So I think that for me, it's in the little things, that everyday things, like I said, going grocery shopping, cleaning my house. I love doing those things. And I'm really, really religious about my workouts. I have to do that every week. It's really made a huge difference to me. I think being able to get that energy out and that release, it's very, very important. So there's some things that I know it makes me feel better, and I really make sure that I plan that into my week. So I appreciate that. Also, I think mental health, just one last thing, I think for me as well, I mean, mental health, the way I prioritize it, or the way I bake it into my world is, I cannot underestimate the power of girlfriends, really having people that I can just be raw with. I can just say it all, and a lot of my girlfriends are in different parts of the world, right? Different areas of the world. And, but it is something, we have a WhatsApp group, I can just say, I can vent. You need that, it can be the unfiltered self. I think that's very important as well.
It is. It's funny because I just was in that kind of space last night with two friends of mine here in the city, and from ISCA in March of 2023. We created the collective, right? And we have been a
I
support
love that.
one another. And when I tell you, I've had some really intense moments, things happen this year to me and my family, and just knowing that we're dispersed all over the world, but I can just get a voice note, put something in. Can y'all pray for me?
There you go. There you go.
And I'm just like, that's it.
There you go. That's your tribe. That's it. That part of the tribe. That is so powerful. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that is it. And cultivate that and nurture that and see it for what it is, mental health, it's a group thing too, so I'm so glad that you have that. That's such a great group of women. Oh my gosh.
It is. And I'm just so grateful that we all went to ISCA at the same time and chose to, my intention was, I'm going to connect to good people. I was like, God, all right, like put me in the vicinity of some really aligned women, and
Beautiful.
I get into like my energetic space, and I'm like, no, that is the intention. I want to be able to leave here with healthy connections that we can grow from each other, we can support each other all over the world, and that is literally what happened. I have one or two questions, and we can move through the interview. I feel like, especially as Black women that are living in the world, thriving, creating, making space for lots of other people, and hopefully holding it for ourselves, that there's like a process of unlearning and relearning, reloving ourselves. And in my mind, that feels like a constant healing journey. And I'm wondering, for you, like, what would you describe staying in a healing space looks like for you?
Ooh, staying in a healing space looks like for me.
I'm loving your reactions.
Because I'm very practical as well in the way I think, but at the same time, I'm also very abstract. So I swing between, so like, how do I answer this? I think for me, it goes back to the same thing, really knowing what are the things that make me feel good, that make me feel grounded, that make me feel connected, and nurturing those things. And I'm not great at that, by the way, so I don't want to come across as some guru, but like I said, like with the workout, that is very important for me. And I have to say, I have to give credit to my mom, because I think it's only in hindsight, when I was, now we're talking about this, that I realized the impact that she's made when it comes to the way I hold that space, like you said, that healing space for myself, and how I can prioritize those things and not feel guilty about it, and have, boundaries and all that. And that is that growing up, my mom, her name is Philomena, she would go to work. She was a scientist. She would go to work, come back, and go into her bedroom. And for an hour, she would lock the door. Doesn't matter what was going on outside. She made sure that 1 hour, 1.5 hour mommy time, y'all can do whatever you want. You can.
Don't burn the house down now.
And you know what? We were fine that 1 hour. And as soon as the door opened, we're like, oh, my brother took my teddy bear, like all the things happened. But that 1 hour, she maintained that. I mean, I just saw them last week or 2 weeks ago. And, I hadn't seen them in months, like 6 months or something, so we're catching up. I just arrived, put my suitcase down, we're like talking about all the things happening. She's excited. And she just cuts off in the middle of the conversation. It's like, now it's my nap time. I'll continue the conversation afterwards.
It's called boundaries, babe, and y'all already know.
Just arrived. I just spent, traveling all the way, and you're really gonna say bye. But that is my mom. You know, that is my mom. And during that time, she might do her nails, she might sleep, she might do whatever, she might pray, she might meditate, but she always has. And so, you know, she's now in her mid-70s, and that is a ritual that she's kept. And I think in our minds, it's done something. And so I think for me, I'm not apologetic with having you know, those boundaries or like that space for myself. And I think it's because it's in order for me to be able to give, because I'm, you know, with my work and being a business owner and all the things I do, I have to cultivate that space to check in on myself so that I can actually give and continue to give. So it's not for the sake of just, you know, doing nothing, but it's really in order to do more, in order to support, in order to really be my best self and show up as my best self for other people. So yeah, so my mom, yeah, that 1 hour and a half or 1 hour that she does, doesn't matter who you are, where you are, she's gonna take her nap.
I love it. That's like a t-shirt.
It comes out all refreshed.
Need my hour. Like that is a whole seminar that especially we could teach the Black women and Black
Listen, you know what? And the kids will be okay. There were four of us, 4 children. The kids will be okay.
And I mean,
I
y'all
don't
got
have to
each
get it
other.
though. Yes, you have each other. You will figure it out.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So last question is I'm really curious about what at this stage you glean pride from. Thank you. Thank you. Where do you glean pride from today?
What I'm proud of today. I think in this moment in time, you know, I think Cicely Tyson said it well, that I want to be a vessel for good work. I've always loved that statement. It's just so, you know, like I want to be a vessel for good work. When I heard her say that, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to be that. So it's not like I set out saying I want to do good work, but the frustration has created these companies and the work that I do where we are doing good work. I am doing good work. You know, we're really helping families that are at the end of their rope, but are really struggling, being able to come up with solutions, match them with incredible people. You know, we're able to hire people and give them a salary, which it also makes me feel, you know, proud. We're able to create a safe haven for people around the world. And so for me, I want to be a vessel for good work. And I feel like with the work that we're doing, I really can say that I'm proud that in this moment in time, not perfect, but I am a vessel for good work. And I'm proud of that. Yeah. And I get to meet people like you. So that's in the work that we do, right? We get to meet candid people.
Like Cicely Tyson hit it on the nose. Being a vessel for good work is the linchpin of what we do. And honestly, I think it's ingrained in who we are as people. And then we find a vehicle to make that, to make it more exponential, I believe. And I can honestly say, like from the conference, me noticing that in you and wanting to connect, not to get anything from you, but it was just like to learn and to grow, and just to have how you've been able to kind of like breathe life into me and speak in such a healing way without even knowing it. It's difficult for people to see things in themselves that other people might see that might be good when you're doing certain work. So I'm grateful for that, and I thank you for that. But I am so encouraged and excited about what's next, as far as what you're doing into the world, putting out into the world, and you know the work that we're doing as well. And I just want to thank you for spending this time with me today and sharing. And I'm hoping we can do this again. Because I think that you are amazing, and I'm intrigued by everything that you're doing and how you're able to continue to thrive and care for yourself and just make the things happen. So I am grateful for you. Can you share with us how we can follow the journey, we can support the work? Please share with us how we can stay connected to you and the mission.
Will do. Thank you so much for having me on this show today. And really, I'm excited about your journey. Keep us posted. We'll be following, and come to Berlin, please do. But really, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure sharing today.
Yes. So how do we stay in touch? Socials, things like that?
Yes. You know what? Right now, with the Girls Gearing Up International Leadership Academy, we are open for registration and nominate a teen girl. Doesn't matter where they are around the world. We'll make it happen somehow. It's girlsgearingup.org. You can, check it out, nominate a young person in your world or that you know of. And yeah, that would be one way to stay in touch, but also on LinkedIn as well.
Right.
Chineme Ugbor, and I'll send that all to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to thank Chineme for again joining us today. And for everyone tuning in, I want to say thank you for joining us in another engaging conversation on the Black Expat Experience. I encourage you, as always, to keep taking risks, impacting your communities, and above all, managing and prioritizing your mental health and living abundantly on purpose. So please share this in your communities. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. Thrive, people. See y'all later. Bye.